Japanese discipline. I got it completely wrong. For years, I'd read the books, watched the videos, even white-knuckled my way through the morning routines. And then one night I'm sitting there, staring at a half-finished habit tracker on my phone, 3 weeks into another fresh start, and something clicks. I'd been copying the surface of Japanese discipline while completely missing the engine underneath it. There's a concept that shaped how Japan trains its doctors, teaches its children, builds its cars, and almost nobody in the West talks about it. What it actually does to your brain. Look, if you've tried discipline before and watched it crumble after a few weeks, that's not a character flaw. I spent months digging through the actual research on this. Cross-cultural psychology, behavioral science out of Japanese universities, even Toyota's internal training methodology. And what I found is that we've been handed a model of discipline that was never built to last. What I'm about to share isn't the same Kaizen Ikigai advice you've heard recycled 100 times. Real quick, I'm genuinely curious. Have you ever had a stretch where discipline was actually working, and then it just collapsed? Like one missed day spiraled into a month? Drop what happened in the comments. I think you'll see you're not alone in this. Here's where it shows up in your actual life. You set an alarm for 6 a.m. You know you should get up. You've got the goal, the reason, the whole plan mapped out. And every single morning it turns into a negotiation. You versus you. Willpower on trial at 6:03 a.m. Half asleep, genuinely arguing with a pillow. That negotiation, that's the symptom. Not of laziness, of a discipline model that dumps the entire burden on your motivation in the moment, and then blames you when it fails. But here's what most people never stop to think about. That model has an origin, and it's not universal. We assume discipline works the same way everywhere. Same muscle, same fight. You either push through it, or you're soft. But that assumption, it has a specific origin, and it's not nearly as old or universal as you'd think. When Leiden University studied self-regulation strategies across cultures in 2018, they found something that quietly dismantles it. Western self-regulation leans heavily on effortful suppression, white-knuckling your way through temptation, just pushing harder. East Asian strategies, completely different foundation. And here's where it gets interesting, because some people will hear this and say I'm oversimplifying an entire culture. I get that pushback, but I think the research tells a more specific story. I'm curious where you land on this. That difference didn't come from nowhere. Decades before productivity YouTube existed, before habit trackers, before anyone was optimizing their morning, there was kata. Not the martial arts move, the principle. Kata. In Japanese education, medicine, craftsmanship, even business, means form. A precise, repeatable sequence you follow until the behavior lives in your body, not your decision-making. Researchers at Hokkaido University found that the Japanese conceptualization of self-discipline emphasizes external structure, routines, environmental cues, procedural patterns, over internal motivation. And across educational settings, that approach has been associated with higher behavioral consistency over time. Here's the part that changed how I think about this entirely. A 2020 paper out of Hitotsubashi University found that kata doesn't work because it's repetitive. It works because the form is the decision. You don't stand at 6 a.m. deciding whether to get up. The sequence is already in motion. Shoes by the door, coffee maker prepped, clothes laid out. The decision happened yesterday. Honestly, when I first read that, my reaction was just, oh, I've been arm wrestling myself every morning for no reason. But why didn't we get this model? Here's what's wild. Mike Rother at the University of Michigan tracked how Toyota used kata internally for decades. Coaching routines, procedural patterns, repeated behavioral sequences until improvement became automatic. That system built one of the most disciplined organizations on earth, and we never imported the principle behind it. And the data from Penn, Gala and Duckworth 2015 backs it up from the opposite direction. People who APP are highly self-disciplined don't actually exert more willpower. They structure their environment so the desired behavior requires less effort. Now, you might be thinking that's great for Toyota. I'm one person in an apartment in Denver trying to get to the gym. That's the exact question the researchers had, and the answer is the part nobody in the self-improvement world ever gets to. Picture this. Wednesday morning next week, your alarm goes off. But instead of the negotiation, the do I feel like a trial? There's no trial. Your gym clothes are on the chair. Your shoes are by the door. Your bag was packed last night. You're not deciding. You're already in motion. That's not fantasy. That's kata. And it works because you designed the sequence before the moment arrived. If you're still here, you're not the kind of person looking for a motivational quote. This may not fix everything. I genuinely don't. But I know the morning stopped feeling like a fight. And the thing that gets me, I wasted years thinking I was undisciplined. Turns out I was running a system that asks you to generate motivation from scratch every single morning. No system on earth sustains that. That half-finished habit tracker I mentioned at the start. No system on earth sustains that. That half-finished habit tracker I mentioned at the start. It failed because it tracked outcomes, not sequences. Every study I went through, Hokkaido Hitotsubashi Pen, even the Toyota fieldwork, lands on the same conclusion. Discipline that lasts is procedural, not motivational. And I'll be honest, some researchers would frame this differently. Science isn't static, but that pattern, it's hard to walk away from. The root cause revelation is almost embarrassingly simple. We were told discipline is a character trait, something you either have or you build through sheer force. Keta says discipline is a design problem. You don't build more willpower. You build better sequences. A meta-analysis across 94 studies, NYU and Sheffield, over 8,000 participants, found that pre-deciding the exact when, where, and how of a behavior significantly increased follow-through. In some of those studies, the improvement was 2 to 3 times higher. Not by making people more motivated, by deciding before the moment. If nothing else sticks from this, remember that. Discipline isn't motivation at the moment of action. It's the decision you made the night before. If you know someone who keeps beating themselves up for not being disciplined enough, they need to hear this. Tomorrow morning, actually tonight before you go to bed, lay out one sequence. Just one. Clothes, bag, keys, whatever your morning needs. Don't set a goal. Set a kata. That habit tracker on my phone, I deleted it. Replaced it with a checklist of sequences. Not outcomes. Not goals. What goes where? The night before. Right now you might feel 2 things at once. A quiet relief that maybe you're not broken, and a low-key skepticism that something this simple could actually matter. Both of those are real. Both get to stay. You don't need to become a different person to be disciplined. You need to stop asking yourself to make hard decisions at the worst possible moment. And look, if this feels too simple, I hear you. But too simple is different from wrong. Tonight, one sequence. Laid out, 5 minutes or less. That's it. Drop night 1 in the comments if you're doing it. I want to see it. This is what we dig into here. The real mechanics underneath the things everyone talks about, but nobody actually explains. You already know something shifted. I can't tell you exactly what it'll become. Nobody can. But the question in your head right now isn't, am I disciplined enough anymore? It's, what do I lay out tonight? The fight was never you versus you. It was you versus a missing sequence.